This is a big event for Washington State DOT and for the region as a whole. Starting April 29th, Seattle Tunnel Partners will begin mining underneath the Alaskan Way Viaduct. So this is the new highway going underneath the old highway, and it's kind of a important milestone for us. I wanted to talk today with partners from King County Metro, King County Water Taxi, and the City of Seattle about what the agencies are doing to help get out the message, reduce folks' anxieties a little bit, and talk about what are the best tools for folks to come into the city, what routes are good, and just most importantly, give yourself extra time to get downtown and be prepared for what's going to happen. The closure is going to last approximately 2 weeks, starting on the 29th. There's been, again, a lot of coordination with these agencies that are up here, and each of them are going to talk individually about what their departments are doing to ready traffic for the closure. A good place to get information is on our respective websites, but also at 99closure.com. There's a lot of information there for the travelers to help plan your trips and get travel time information. We also are running a command center that's going to operate 24/7 during the closure, and these agencies will all be talking on a regular basis as an outcome of that. If we need to make changes, if we need to adjust signal timing, for example, or on-ramps to I-5 signals, we can all do that in real time as the conditions warrant. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to John Laser, who's with the Seattle DOT, and he's going to talk a little bit about what the city's doing to help alleviate traffic. John?
Thanks, Dave. I'm John Laser, Seattle Department of Transportation, and as Dave said, WashDOT has been working with Seattle Department of Transportation and King County to plan for this up to 2 week closure during the tunneling. Some of the key things that we're doing, we're focusing on some of the key corridors and intersections into and out of downtown Seattle, traffic restrictions, parking restrictions, uniformed police officer support to keep transit moving on their detours, transit moving on existing routes, and just to keep traffic moving generally. We're also we're doing a lot of work to coordinate other uses of the right-of-way. So we're working with private developers to limit their use of the right-of-way during this period in downtown, as well as public and private utilities and our own city crews. There's a lot of work, construction work going on in Seattle right now, and we're going to try and pull some of that back, especially away from the peak periods when we really need the right-of-way for travel. We're investing a lot to make sure that people have good and timely information about their travel choices. As Dave mentioned, we're really counting on people to check before they travel, try out new ways of getting to work, shifting schedules or adjusting as possible, and we'll be providing information to people through our dynamic message signs throughout the region. We'll be putting up some additional portable message signs to give people information, and then of course our travelers information map, other sources of information, and we'll also be asking for help from the media to get the word out to people about what's going on and choices that they can make. And then finally, Dave mentioned our incident response capabilities and our ability to change things in real time. Our City Traffic Operations Center, as well as the State Traffic Management Center, will be operating in full capacity, and we'll be dispatching emergency response crews from those locations to clear accidents on the freeway system or on the city street system as quickly as possible. As you may know, accidents and incidents account for a huge amount of the congestion we experience, so the quicker we can get those things cleared, the more likely we're to have a better situation the rest of the time. So we will also have traffic engineers in our Traffic Operations Center able to make adjustments to signal timing in real time as we go through this. And then, as Dave mentioned, we'll be in frequent communication among the agencies, adjusting as things go. With that, I'll turn over to Victor Obeso from King County.
Thank you, John. Dave. I'm Victor Obeso. I'm the Deputy General Manager for Planning and Customer Services for King County Metro. And I'd first like to thank our partners at the State Department of Transportation and Seattle Department of Transportation. We have all worked together for years on this project, and this is one more example of coordinating our activities when there's an impact related to the construction. Metro operates 12 routes that come onto the viaduct via the Seneca ramp, delivering people in Midtown, and the Columbia ramp coming out of town. 25,000 people use those routes on a daily basis. In the peak hour, they represent half of the users of the Columbia Way ramp coming out of downtown in the afternoon. So we are asking all of those 25,000 riders and more, because really people use transit occasionally, so there's a larger body of transit riders out there, to have a plan before they leave during this closure, so that they understand where our routes have been rerouted, how services will be impacted. We will be using pathways from West Seattle to 4th Avenue coming into downtown. Those series of routes that come out of West Seattle will operate via 3rd Avenue during this closure period. And we also have peak period express routes and all-day routes coming from Burien, Normandy Park, and Des Moines that provide service via 509 and the viaduct. Those routes will get off at Spokane and move over to the Soto Bus and Railway, where they will operate into downtown via 4th Avenue. We've established temporary stops for these routes on 3rd and 4th Avenues during this period. And Metro is putting out additional service to provide more capacity, provide more choices. So we'll have 22 daily operator assignments, 11 added buses to our fleet, but morning and afternoon with the overlap, there'll be 22 additional bus operator assignments, 135 daily hours of service added to this corridor during this closure period. So again, our message is to riders to please plan in advance, go online, use the Metro Trip Planner, stay in touch on a daily basis. As the prior speakers have alluded, our Transit Control Center, our Light Rail Control Center, are always in close contact with the operation centers for SDOT and WashDOT. So we're prepared with additional service. It will operate somewhat more slowly than coming in via the viaduct, so people need to be patient. Watch for one bus away, as well as just looking for the next bus if the first bus they're looking for is not quite there yet. King County also operates the water taxis, and I'm going to introduce Paul Broder, our Director of Marine Operations.
Thank you, Victor. Paul Broder, the Director of the Marine Division. We operate the King County Water Taxi. So the Marine Division has also been preparing with our sister agency, Metro, along with the City of Seattle and WashDOT on this closure for some time now. We've also are incorporating some lessons learned from the 2011 Viaduct closure, when we saw water taxi ridership jump over 200% during that closure period. This time around, we have 2 new, larger vessels on both the Vashon and the West Seattle routes. Doc Maynard and Sally Fox each carry 278 passengers and 26 bicycles. This is quite an upgrade from the Spirit of Kingston, which was the primary West Seattle vessel, which only had 149 passenger capacity. So to help riders to and from Vashon, we're adding 5 additional round trips per day during this closure period. There'll be 2 in the morning and 3 in the afternoon. The hope here is to get more folks off the Vashon-Fauntleroy corridor and off the Rapid Ride Sea Line, so that frees up seats for other commuters into downtown. So we hope to attract some new riders both off Vashon and off Southworth. The additional sailings off of Vashon also will connect with the Southworth sailing that the current schedule does not. So we will match up with all 3 Southworth arrivals into Vashon Island. So that connectivity will be key for a lot of commuters coming direct to downtown. For the West Seattle commuters, it's always been a case of not enough parking over by the ferry terminal at Seacrest Dock. So this time around, we're adding lots of options for people to park and then ride the water taxi into downtown. The 120 available spaces will be freed up along Harbor Avenue, and this will be well signed. We've been working with the city on this. There'll be van pool and Uber hop parking at Don Armini Boat Launch, which is just a short walk up the street from Seacrest Park. We'll have more than 40 additional parking spaces in a small lot off Bronson Way, which is just by Salty's Restaurant. And then the big parking lot that we've been working with the Port of Seattle is at Terminal 2, which is just across the 7-Eleven on Harbor Avenue. The 0.6 of a mile from the ferry dock, there'll be over 200 parking spaces there. So that's a big increase in parking availability all along the waterfront there, so water taxi users can access the Seacrest dock. There will be larger shuttles running on both the 773 and the 775 routes. Those are our existing shuttle routes. We'll have 39 passenger shuttles for this closure period. We'll also have a dedicated shuttle running between the parking at the Port of Seattle Terminal 2 to Seacrest Dock, making back and forth trips during the commute hour, bringing people to and from the water taxi. So we're asking again, all riders, plan your trips well in advance. Check our websites, check Closure 99 website for updates, and if all else fails, info@water taxi always works. We always get a quick response out to our customers. Thank you.
So if anybody has questions, we can address it to folks individually.
I have a question for John from SDOT. This is regarding the overlap of the Fauntleroy Expressway bridge closures and this. Now that we have a date for Fauntleroy Expressway closures, how come SDOT isn't just going to delay those a couple of weeks so that West Seattleites don't have to deal with these two huge things at the same time?
So we've been looking at all of our capital projects and working to coordinate those that have overlapping potential impacts. The Fauntleroy Expressway work, the closures are planned for overnight to do that work. But we will be keeping a close eye on traffic conditions related to the viaduct closure, and if necessary, we would push some of those closures back. But right now, it looks like the overnight closures shouldn't be in direct conflict with some of the challenges with the viaduct closure.
It's the lane closures under the bridge that probably will cause more conflicts, and some of those are during the day, as you probably know.
I'll take that back and take a closer look at that.
Thanks.
Question for WashDOT. It's no surprise there's been issues with Bertha. Is there a contingency plan if it is not, the closure is not wrapped up in 2 weeks?
We'll continue to monitor that. We've got a lot of instrumentation and a lot of eyes watching the project. The implementation of the measures that we've talked about here, the operational changes and the traffic control changes that we've talked about here will remain in effect until the viaduct's been put back on.
With the changes in staffing of the different agencies, is that funding that's included in construction costs, or is each organization responsible for management of drivers or any other thing?
Each of the organizations is helping to fund this closure. WashDOT is the lead agency, has a lion's share of that, but each of the agencies is also stepping up and providing support.
Any ballpark figure what this 2-week closure is costing overall?
I can provide you those numbers offline.
How healthy is Bertha?
Well, so let's recap here. The machine has been under an extensive amount of repair. The crews have been working around the clock to get it ready for this. We've mined, since the suspension for cause, we've mined successfully about 250 feet out of that area and into the safe haven. So the contractors made a number of operational changes, personnel changes, and equipment changes to the machine since it resumed mining after the suspension. So I think WashDOT feels they've done the prudent and necessary efforts to be ready to mine.
Is it always the plan to have it shut down when it got to this point?
The plan has been in place to do this for since the project was originally conceived. There was a lot of debate as to how that would affect the traveling public, but it was the engineers that got together and the traffic folks that got together at the time, and this was like 3 or 4 years ago, felt it was necessary as a precautionary measure to close the viaduct and have a planned closure rather than an emergency unplanned closure. So there was a closure in 2011 when we put the detour into place, and that was a 9-day closure. We wrapped it up in about 7 days. So it's been a while since we've had 2-week closure, but that's the best piece of information that we can compare to. There's been a number of changes since 2011 in and around the city of Seattle, including a separated grade crossing to the port, which eliminates the conflict between trains and port traffic that was created some bottlenecks in 2011. So there are some things in place today that weren't in place in 2011 that should make things a little bit easier than that closure.
What are you predicting? What do you think it's going to look like in these 2 weeks?
Well, certainly Interstate 5 will be much busier. The backups will continue for most of that 2 weeks. Usually what we see initially is people get the message and they stay home or they alternate their plans. But as the days go by, they change back to their old habits. And we're really trying to encourage people to get a plan that works, stick with it, and try to avoid the downtown area if you can. Work from home, use other forms of transport into the city.
I have a question for.
Question over here?
Sorry.
Oh, he covered it.
Okay, all right.
A question for Victor from Metro. Can you please recap which, if any, temporary bus-only lanes might be set up, especially relating to getting off 4th Avenue for buses from West Seattle?
There's an extension of the bus-only lanes on 4th Avenue further to the south, as well as temporary bus lanes will be put in place on Branch Route and Lenora Streets to the north, in addition to police officers to enforce those temporary lanes.
Thank you.
What is the plan for large semi-trucks and large commercial vehicles go around 245?
Sure. Large semi-trucks and commercial vehicles will still be able to use Surface Alaskan Way as the primary through route through downtown during the day. So I-5 or Surface Alaskan Way become primary freight routes.
As managers, do you feel as if everybody here has the resources they need for this shutdown, overtime, things like that? Are you fully being supplied that by the city and other agencies?
I think I can speak for the city that we have the resources to meet the plan that we have. Absolutely.
Will they be monitoring the viaduct as it goes underneath, as far as any changes?
Yeah, so one of the things Seattle Tunnel Partners did was implement a very robust instrumentation program, as well as a lot of controls on the machine itself. So I talked earlier about this command center that's going to be in place 24/7. Not only is that looking at traffic in and around the region, but it's also there to evaluate data that's coming off of the machine as well as instrumentation. The viaduct is outfitted with a number of survey points, tilt meters, devices underground that tell us how the ground is moving and shifting, if at all. So there's a lot of eyes watching a lot of the viaduct and a lot of the ground around the viaduct.
Basic question. So there's discrepancies about the number of vehicles you fly them today. What did walk about how many vehicles are going to be displaced?
So we're expecting a displacement of about 30,000 transit riders and about 90,000 vehicles, 90,000 cars that use the viaduct every day.
So 30,000 being people who take
Transit in and out of downtown Seattle using the viaduct vehicle.
How does that compare to 2011?
There was more traffic in 2011, at least 10 or 20% more traffic. It was over 100,000 vehicles per day. I don't know the ridership numbers from King County Metro, but in terms of vehicles per day, it was around 110.
Just a little sidebar with that command center that you have where there is someone actively, not 24 hours I'm assuming, but giving out that information on Twitter, what's going on, or any questions that, someone may have.
Yeah, so the command center is actually going to operate 24/7, as well as the traffic management centers that the state and the city and the WashDOT manage. So we're going to be monitoring this 24/7. There will be daily media updates, and there will be call-ins with the teams in front of you 3 times a day as well to talk about how traffic's moving, how the instrumentation looks, how the mining is progressing, and being ready to be nimble and make changes as necessary.
Is there some official detour, like other than I-5, or is you're hoping with all these thousands of commuters to figure out a different way to operate?
Well, so everybody comes to work a little bit differently, right? One of the messages we're trying to get people to look at alternate routes of getting downtown. Certainly if 99 is your preferred route, you obviously cannot use that. So whether it's surface streets or I-5, those are your alternate routes to get in. There's not a detour per se. traffic coming southbound on Aurora will have to exit at either Denny or on the south side of the Battery Street Tunnel on the Western Avenue. Northbound traffic would have to exit down in Soto area.
Some of that butterflies in their stomach.
Well, again, that's why we're trying to get the message out to everybody, make people aware of the challenges that they're going to have for those 2 weeks. Exactly.
For Metro and water taxi, do you have a guesstimate of how many more additional riders will be during these 2 weeks?
Well, it really is just a guesstimate, but I would not be surprised at 10% increases in our use during that period. We'd also see some spreading of the use throughout the day. Beyond what's done today, our peak periods may be becoming a little longer as people adjust their travel times, and that will ebb and flow a bit over the 2 weeks of the closure.